the steel they have. You can really cut many things with that. Why is there such a difference between Indonesian Kris as far as size and weight is concerned and Moro Kris?
That's right. Well, this is interesting. The Moro Kris was intended to be used actually, while not only in a thrusting motion, but also in a slashing way. So, analyzing the blade, looking at the base of the blade, we can see those two strips of usually precious metals that are hold together the handle with the blade, and this is to prevent the blade from, fall apart while you are slashing someone. So this is the main difference between those two weapons.
Yes. Okay, and so did I understand you correctly? Indonesian Kris is mainly a thrusting weapon, you're saying?
That's right. Yeah. While you're holding it, this is why those the heels are always very, very small, because part of the hand is going onto the blade. The index finger and the thumb finger is holding the sorcerer and the base of the blade. So it is connecting it. It is providing a more structural integrity to the weapon itself. But it is mostly a thrusting weapon.
Okay. Could you go back to the slide before, please?
Sure.
Okay, what kind of stones are they?
This is a very interesting question. Mostly those are rubies or emeralds, the one in green. But usually not, from a Western perspective point of view, we would have used only gemstones. But for the Balinese, the Indonesian culture, it doesn't matter if the stone is actually real or if it has only a value for the stone itself. It has a meaning. So a glass bead could have the same power, let's say, as the gemstone itself. Mostly they were using gemstone, rubies, diamonds. I remember the very nice hills from Kalimantan, from Borneo, that are all over covered with, are gilded in gold, and then are decorated with those rows of very small diamonds mined in the mainland of Borneo. But those they are usually mixed with beads of glass.
I just need to mention something to you. You might find this very interesting, and I'm sure I'm going to reveal it now. Together with my colleague, Professor Arjmandi from Shahid Beheshti University in Iran, which is a very good university. He's a nanotechnologist, a physicist, so professor in physics. We wrote an article on, I'm sure you've seen the shamshirs. I mean, toolbars are the same, this adhesive material, which is called Zaj Safid, which is like alum. But with alum alone, it's not possible. But then, in one of the Indian manuscripts, you know that the Mughal India wrote mainly in Persian. I found the manuscript written in India in Persian about how to make this adhesive material. So what we did, I translated it, sent it to Tehran, and in the lab, they replicated it. We wrote the whole process of, translation and so on, replication. And then Professor Ajmandi told me, this is the strongest adhesive glue he has seen, stronger than industrial ones. And he's saying it as a nanotechnologist. We published this article in an academic journal of University of Kafka, which is a very good university in Turkey, which was published just 1 week ago. Is going to print, is already printed, I think, by now. And this is the real replication, because for years, all these collectors and everyone was saying, what is this adhesive material? I found it in a 15th century Persian manuscript, how to make it, and now it's published. But the next step, I'm going to mention it, this is interesting for you.
I think so, I really think so.
The next step, which is very interesting for you, because now we are going into another dimension of research on arms and armor. In the same book, I found different chapters, and we are going to replicate one by one. Now I reveal this information. How? Because you know the same things you find here you find, okay, Persian weapons are like nihonto, as we say, very simple. Everything is blade. The rest is always kept simple, like katana, like wakizashi. Now you said our colleagues, researchers say Persian weapons are like Japanese as far as you keep it simple, only the blade is important. But if you go to Indian weapons, if you go to Ottoman weapons, you see that they're decorated, sometimes with gemstones. So my idea was always, especially in Indian weapons, people said colored stones. And I always said, what is colored stone? Right? So then what does that mean, colored stone? Because I knew alone in Persian, we have 145 books on differentiation of gemstones, already from 11th century. I translated many of them. One of them is going to be published, the whole publication on different classification of gemstones in Persian. But I translated another one, which is not about classification of gemstones, is about classification of transformation. And that book about adhesive material on sword was in that book. This is not going to be my next book, it's going to be published after. Now listen, Marco, this is interesting. They describe how to get rock crystal or different types and dye it, color it so it looks like a ruby. They describe how to dye rock crystal so it looks like emerald. They describe the whole process, how it looks, and this is exactly what we look now here. They exactly describe, and they describe the whole process, Marco.
This is so interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to read about it.
Yes, and this is the first time I've translated already, and we are going to put it in the lab, replicate it. We go article by article and then publish it as a book. And this is extremely important, you know, because in Razmafsar team, now we have a nanotechnologist. Okay, the first part is already published. So we replicate it in labs and we go ahead to see the knowledge of them back then. And then this book was written, of course, in Persian, in India. In India, it was in Mughal India, it was written. And then they discovered it. This one part is even so fascinating. They talk about pearls, right? Different pearls. And then they say, okay, this book is not about classification of pearls, because I have another Persian book written in Iran about classification of pearls. But they say sometimes we collect many smaller parts of broken pearls, and it describes how to grind them, how to use a special adhesive material, and glue them and polish them so they look exactly like a pearl. And then at the end, they write, the author says, so no one can tell. You know, it's so funny when you read that, and then fascinating. Yeah. And then this book written in Persian in India also describes many of these colored gemstones, okay, you know, as we say in the West now, color stones, were exported to different countries. And they talk about exportation even to Southern Europe. And they talk about exportation to Indonesia, to Ceylon, right? And you know,
thinking about it, that's right.
Isn't it fascinating? You know, and then the whole process, and I think this will open up a new field. Of course, as you said, some of them are real gemstones, no doubt about that. Some of them are real gemstones. But what it says, when you read the process, Marco, the way they dyed rock crystal or other types of crystals, also sometimes glass, it was so painstaking, it was so detailed, so complicated. So it was not that something that they just, like in today's technology, they just colored glass. So it was really complicated thing. And then, in my opinion, it increases, at least, it increased my appreciation for these things. Because in the past, when there was, okay, emerald, ruby, like an Ottoman weapon, or like an, because they are sometimes, or Indian weapons, so wow. But when I realized they were not real emerald or real rubies, you understand what I mean? But after reading this book, my appreciation increased. Because then I realized I was looking at these things with modern eyes. Because today, you know, with all technology we have, colored glass or things, it's so simple to make. But back then, they did it with plants, with different type of things. They mix them up, and it was it's really fascinating to see the process.
Okay.
Excuse me, I didn't want to stop you, but I thought maybe this information is interesting
I
for
think so.
all of us.
Yeah. What about the steels? I mean, the recent research has done so much in actually studying those ancient weapons and recreating the same type of steels. They were usually high quality steel, and this is very interesting steps in research.
I mean, steels. Like let's go. Let's even if the cultures which kept their steel making. Let's go to Japan. Steel that they kept Nihonto making. Today's Japanese smiths all admit, and also collectors, that during Heian period in Japan, they could never reach the mastery level of that time, right? And we are talking about 11th century, or even that's around that area. And so those magical swords, or going back, or even later, or whatever, right? So then we see that in Persian crucible steel. We now replicate crucible steel, but it's always a small part. Go and get the shape of a blade, go do this and that. And then with the Department of Nanotechnology, another article of us is going to be published, why Shamshir's handle. And it's not only Shamshir, the pillage of the Ottoman army or Ottoman Empire was the same concept. The tang is sandwiched, and they were riveted, and they are this. This has a mechanical property not to give a shock to your hand when you do cutting tests. Because as a martial artist, I realized when we do cutting tests with these modern swords, lots of shock is given to your hand. But when you do it, this ancient technology, it didn't give this shock to you because of the way it was made. And now back to steel and back to all these things. When be it Indonesia, be it Persia, be it India, be it Ottoman Empire, Turkey, be it any other culture, then you start to appreciate, or be it Europe, whatever, we start to appreciate what our ancestors were capable of making. It is really amazing to see that, because at least in the realm of Renaissance, because we in the West, right, we are trained, put it that way, to look down at everything before Renaissance, which is important. Renaissance, I'm not saying it's not important, was extremely important to just discard old ideas. I'm not saying Renaissance, please, not important. But I'm just saying, unfortunately, in my opinion, in the wake of Renaissance, we think, at least in the West, everything which comes before or here and there was not, you know what I mean? It's not good or whatever, right? You know what I mean, Marco, right?
I do.
Yeah, and then I mean, even in Europe, so you don't need even to go, okay, maybe it's because of some colonial attitude. Even within European realm, right, we tend to do that. You don't need to go to other cultures. So this is really fascinating, and when you look at each part of these beautiful pieces you have shown from Vanna's book, it opens something which is fascinating. Could you go one slide back, Marco?
Here we are.
Is this ivory on the left side?
It is. It is ivory, actually. The sources of ivory were varied. I mean, the most appreciated one was the one from the tusks of elephants, even from the elephant, not only for the traded ones, but even the one locally sourced, let's say. But I find very interesting the use of the hippopotami, hippo ivory, that was imported, of course, from Africa, from those routes, trade routes that connected the continents even back then. We are talking about a few hundred of years ago.
And did they use walrus ivory as well?
Well, let me think about it. Probably there are very, very rare pieces made out of walrus ivory. It's something that I've seen in weapons from India, in weapons from Middle East, but probably for the handle of the Kris is something that has never or extremely rarely used.
Okay, but they use, you said, if I understood you correctly, they use rhino horn as well.
That's right. That's right. From the rhinos of Sumatra, or probably something imported again from Africa with the hippo ivory, and it's a very nice material. I'm so sorry for the. I mean, of course, for the animal, it's something that now must be absolutely banished. We are talking about ancient objects that were connected to other cultures. It's a very nice, material, and we can see it even on handle of daggers from North Africa, from the Middle East. So it is a trait that the Indonesian people shared with other cultures. It's translucent. It's very, very nice to look at it. It has this very particular grain made out of the strands of hair. It's actually keratin. It is what they're made of, and it's very, very nice even to hold. The feeling, the feeling that gives to the user is fascinating.
Yes. Could you go one slide back, please? Okay, this is also, is this, what kind of, is this ivory as well?
Ivory as well. Probably it is called marine ivory. So something that is also ivory, but not from the elephant one. So
is this walrus?
And I think this is from hippo, from the curvature of the handle and the aspect of the grain. Studying this hilt, you cannot see the typical cross-hatch pattern of the elephant one, but you can see some dotted lines that are part of the structure of the ivory, and it is probably so from something else. This is generally considered to be, it's called marine ivory, because it's very difficult to be clear on which other animal.
Because the color somehow reminds, okay, I haven't handled that, I just see it in the picture, somehow reminds me of walrus ivory, the color, but I mean, again, you need to, you know, of course, it's very hard to tell.
It's very beautiful patinated. It has been handled for years and years. Probably the fact that it is covered in prayers, touching it was like praying, was relating to the entity, of course, with your religion. So it was handled for a long time. And it's very nice. You can see in the book a picture of the very same handle from another point of view, another perspective. And I'm using the point. Here we can see a mask, a human face carved underneath. And this is very, very peculiar, very particular.
Can I, is it like that? Because Indonesia, if please correct me if I'm wrong, is they're mostly Muslims, correct? Mostly, right? I mean, as far as they practice the religion, of course, that's what I mean.
Nowadays, it's the second, if I recall correctly, is the second per number of inhabitants, the second state of the world for number of inhabitants of the Muslim religion.
Okay, and then so is it like there were some kris like this one which were made for Muslims and some kris which were made for Hindus and some? Could you say that, or you cannot read?
We can actually. This one was for sure made for some people of Muslim religion, while the other one we were looking at before, I'm changing the image. This one on the left, this is from Bali. Bali was an island that has retained the Hindu culture and religion since a few centuries. So the handle, I'm sorry, we can see just the base of the handle, so the legs of the figure. It represents one of the gods of the Hinduist pantheon. And so it was actually for sure made for someone that was of Hindu religion.
Perfect. And kris was made in Indonesia, was made on Malaysia, Malay Islands, was made in Philippines, right?
Even in the southern part of Thailand, the area called Patani. We can see an example. I'm looking for it. This is, oh yeah, the one on the left.
Yeah.
This is it is from Sumatra, but it shares the same figure that used to be carved even in Malay and in the southern part of Thailand as well.
Okay, Marco, Were any Kris made in India?
No. If I recall correctly, they just share the same feature of the blade. But I think in India it has been adopted for a practical point of view. We were talking about the functionality of the wavy blade from the difference from the straight one. So in India, there were used some weapons with a wavy blade, but they were not Kris. They just shared these characteristic. Just some flamberge blades from the European panoplia
Yes.
they have the same feature, but they are
Yes.
not.
They do. Yes, absolutely. Very good, Marco. I mean, very beautiful book and very well researched as usual. I mean, Vanna Scolari, Vanna always does this very detailed and good work and research. I'm really happy that we had the opportunity to have an interview with you, so you presented it. Is there any other factor or any other thing you would like to add to our discussion today, Marco?
Well, I was looking at the very same picture, the handle on the right. This is made out of whale bone and is super ancient. It has been handled for such a long period of time that the figure has almost lost its features, the features of the face. This is very, very, very nice. So in this book, you can find many other examples of those high quality pieces. I would like to add, if I can, those are some information where you can get the book. We have a dealer that is Patrick de Vries from De Vries Antique in the Netherlands. It has the book has a dedicated website, The Invisible World of Kris, that we can Google, and those are just some information how to simply get it or browse it on the web before to obtain informations.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very beautiful. And could you then stop sharing this, please?
Sure. There I am.
Okay, Marco. Then before, I mean, this is just then finished. I hope we are going to have you again back on the channel, so we can talk about your forging processes if you would like to share with us.
I really love it.
I'm sure because you have different interviews with different smiths as well, and that you are going to present it, and also we can talk about Kris because this is a fascinating subject on a fascinating culture. Well, thank you for taking your time, for being here, and I wish you a nice day, Marco.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So then I wish everyone a nice day and see you soon.